Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the limitations of Bitcoin and why it's not going to be used as a widespread cryptocurrency for transactions. And this is exactly what Stripe said in an article from a few years ago. Starting today, we are winding down support for Bitcoin payments. Not exactly what I wanted to show, but that's good to know. Here's the full explanation we've talked about. This has led to Bitcoin becoming less useful for payments. Transaction confirmation times have risen substantially. Fees have risen a great deal, and ultimately it makes Bitcoin transactions about as expensive as bank wires. People want Bitcoin to be the cryptocurrency of the future. They like the idea of a cryptocurrency not backed or forced by a government. And as a result, people are willing to do whatever it takes to make Bitcoin that thing. But the reality is that Bitcoin is not going to be that thing in its current state or for the foreseeable future, because the rules of Bitcoin are built into the algorithm or the protocol, I guess you could say. CoinMama makes it super simple and secure to buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, supported in 188 different countries. Use easy payment methods such as credit and debit cards, Apple Pay, or a bank wire to buy Bitcoin within minutes. To get started on your Bitcoin journey with CoinMama, check out the link in the pinned comment. So here is a chart from blockchain.com, average transactions per block. So on the blockchain, a block can contain a certain number of transactions based on the size limit of that block defined in the Bitcoin protocol. And if we just take a look at, let's say, 60 days, just so we can kind of see what's going on, it's floating somewhere between, 1.8 and 2.4. So we're talking like 2,000-ish transactions per block. And a new block is created every 10 minutes. Now, I'm no math whiz, but let's just figure this out. So let's say 2,200 transactions per block, and we're going to get about 6 blocks per hour. So times 6. This is the number of transactions per hour. Divide that by 60 for per minute, and then divide that by 60 again for per second. And we got 3.6. So we're looking at 3, 4, and I think up to like 7 transactions per second, which is just realistically not enough to support the large scale adoption of just Bitcoin. But there are other cryptocurrencies that make cryptocurrency as a whole a viable option. You'll often see articles like this: Bitcoin blockchain's hash rate hits a new all-time high. And this is sold like it's some great thing. We're reaching new boundaries of Bitcoin, but that's not always the case. This article specifically doesn't really say whether that's good or bad, but a lot of articles sell it like it's a good thing. But I just wanted to talk about this in a little bit more detail. In the Bitcoin protocol, there is a new block on average every 10 minutes, regardless of how much Bitcoin mining is going in to make this happen. So the hash rate talks about the total computational power of the Bitcoin network, but the end result is still the same: a new block every 10 minutes with like 2,200-ish transactions. So having a high hash rate isn't really a good thing, because it's basically saying how much computational power is required to support the Bitcoin network, even though we're getting the same exact output, potentially up to 7 transactions per second. Doubling the hash rate doesn't double the number of transactions, it just doubles the amount of work required to get the same number of transactions. Here's another article I found, and I'm not here to trash it because, I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes. I just don't like the way this is explained. Bitcoin's hash rate is an indicator of how healthy. We'll stop there. Yeah, it's basically saying, a lot of people are contributing to the Bitcoin network, so arguably it is healthy. Powerful and profitable the Bitcoin network is at any given time. Which kind of makes sense, as the price of Bitcoin, the demand of Bitcoin goes higher, the hash rate's naturally going to go up because more people want to get that Bitcoin. But then again, does it really make Bitcoin more powerful or more healthy? No, because we're getting the same exact output. It's basically just saying how much resources are required to now support this network. And it says the Bitcoin network hash rate is the speed at which any particular type of mining machine operates, which I think this is just kind of graying the difference between the network hashing and then the hashing rate of a particular computer. The network hash rate is just how much the entire network is computing. And then the hash rate for a particular computer, that's actually a good thing. That's how powerful that machine is, how well it can compete against the other computers in the Bitcoin mining competition. But Bitcoin has a natural equilibrium effect defined in the protocol so that it isn't really more profitable when the hash rate is higher. A higher hash rate just means more competition, which means your chances of receiving Bitcoin are actually less. When people say the hash rate is at an all-time high, it means the competition for Bitcoin is at an all-time high. It doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin mining is the most profitable. In fact, when the competition for Bitcoin mining is the highest, it might actually be less profitable. It might even be that some people are mining cryptocurrencies and making nothing, or even mining them at a loss because they see the potential value of Bitcoin in the future. And in that situation, you're not going to make any money Bitcoin mining. Now, anyone who's done a lot of Bitcoin mining can probably tell I'm not an expert on this subject. I just wanted to talk about these headlines and just make sure we understand whether they're good or bad. And having the highest hash rate, as shown here in this graph, the highest hash rate it's ever had, doesn't really mean a whole lot in terms of profitability or how many transactions Bitcoin can support. To someone who's experienced, that's probably pretty clear, but just wanted to clarify if anyone had any confusion. And the other thing is that Bitcoin has a difficulty measurement. So as the hash rate goes up, it becomes harder and harder to verify the next block, thus keeping the average block time 10 minutes. So we could cut this hash rate in half or, in tenths, and we would still be able to support the same number of transactions, the same rate of new blocks. As a side note, all of the environmental concerns of Bitcoin source from this hash rate thing. Bitcoin is consuming more and more electricity, but we're not necessarily getting more out of it, which is why people are beginning to look at other consensus mechanisms such as proof of stake. These might not have the same environmental impact, but then again, other people will argue that Bitcoin has the purest form of consensus, and to actually get new Bitcoin into circulation, there has to be work put into it, which makes it scarce and hard to get, which is why it has more value. But I'm not an expert on the financial aspect of all this. Just wanted to make a quick video talking about this original headline, which was hash rate hitting an all-time new high. Basically, the demand for Bitcoin is just the highest it's ever been. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about just a bunch of random stuff on buying new cryptocurrencies, risks of cryptocurrency, and some interesting things. So stay tuned for the next video. I'll see you all soon. And don't you forget to subscribe. We need you. I need you.